Good morning! My name is Olga. I'm working as a teacher. Quite recently we've had a teachers meeting, like all educational and other things, organizational stuff, where they instruct us. And during this meeting we also have been asked the question, what do you think about future of standardized testing in US education? I did answer that time, and then I wanted to extend my answer maybe a little bit longer, but not very long, but a little bit longer. So a little bit of my background. I was born in a country that does not exist anymore. It's called, it used to be called USSR. I was born and raised in USSR. It's actually Kazakhstan, part of that part. And in the morning I started and finished school before USSR collapsed. No, hold on. I finished school after the collapse. But basically, the collapse of the USSR happened in 1991, just for information. And my teachers were all born and raised in the USSR, so they were old school teachers. So I would say that my education background is rather old school, right? So, but at the same time, standardized testing did affect me a little bit at the exit year of my school. The very last year when I was at school, they introduced this standardized testing. It was the first year, and we were the first to be experimented on. Yeah, it was an interesting experience, but it wasn't exactly how to say obligatory, mandatory things for everybody that year. It was an experimental, and everybody who wanted to take part in this experiment were experimenting. So it was not mandatory that yet. Now it's all everywhere, and you cannot reject it. You cannot take. And we had testing like regular time, regular tests, and we did have this standardized tests. ЕГЭ is called in Russian. All right. So what do I think about it? Shortly and honestly, I think it's stupid. And it grows stupidity among population, but we don't need many smart people around here, so yeah, that's what we're gonna have in the future. But let's go back into some details. My opinion actually might be affected by not exactly me sitting in all these mama chats for mamas and parents, Russian schoolers, but there are a lot of them, and basically being connected to school group chat is a must. If you are a parent in Russia, I'm not sure about all former USSR republics or countries, but in Russia it's a must. If you need to be included into life, and you need to know about what your school is providing your children with, and actually you need to provide to school, because mostly these chats are to ask for money and other resources for everything in the education. But yeah, whatever. And And also this opinion might be really highly negative, because what I know from about tests, because there are a lot of, I do test preparation for some students, for English speaking students. I mean, hold on, not for Russian speaking students, but who need to do the test in English, because that's also a must. At the end of your school you must have testing in several subjects, and one of them is second language, which is English most commonly, sometimes German, but most usually it's English. And a lot of these tests include absolutely life irrelevant questions, and they do not train any life applicable skills, like being able to speak in front of a group of people, or having your opinion expressed, or using your imagination or anything else. It's just exactly test related questions when you click the answers, and they're I'm not really sure if American US tests are the same or not, but in the Russian tests, I know it feels like they really try to fail you on purpose. They choose questions which I would never ever think of having, and basically in my educational scheme or curriculum there was even not included. This information has never been included into that previous education. But now it's all included in tests, and then after these tests are done, not life applicable again. I have two sons, so also my example is, or my vision of school system is based not only on my education, but on my elder son and a little bit on younger, because my elder started school in Russia and then he was there till the 10th grade and then we moved. But my younger only was included into Russian school system for 2 years and then we moved. So it's absolutely different experience. Alright, what used to happen in my classroom when I was a child, and basically in my elder son classrooms, because his teachers were still the same from old USSR school, right? So we had to speak in front of the whole class, like 25, 27 children. For example, if you take the literature class, we had homework where we needed to read some piece of literature, like story, novel, something, and then during the class time we would have to retell this story. And this retelling was an obligatory thing, so teacher would call everybody one by one. We would come in front of the class, all class, to the blackboard, facing all our classmates, and then telling them what we had read back before at home, and now retelling them. Well, it wasn't that stressful. Even though I used to be a very shy person, I'm still sometimes uncomfortable in public, but rather okay now. But back then I was shy, but at the same time I don't remember feeling very, very stressed. Yes, it was stressful, but nothing that you cannot nothing you cannot handle with the time, with the everyday practice. And you do have this everyday practice because you are at school. And what we had, so it's not that you face your classmates and they're staring at you, because at the same time they are in panic, they are reading those books because they didn't do this at home, they failed preparing for classwork. And while I'm retelling the beginning of the story, they already know that somewhere later they will be asked to go up to the front of the class and continue what I am retelling. So they were rapidly going through the text, preparing for their future answer. That's literature. Also in literature we used to learn poetry by heart, and then the same way coming in front of the classroom. Not all of us, but actually all of us, one by one in alphabetical order. First those who voluntarily went to save their classmates, and then alphabetically. But though I remember my teachers were quite okay if you tell me, please give me 5 minutes, I need to refresh, and then they just went to the next, and then it was okay. So that's literature. All other subjects like biology, history, geography, physics, they did do the same. So the same, you need to read something at home and then come into classroom, retell to teacher. So the teacher really see that you read, that you had read what you are supposed to. So that you did get the knowledge, right? And then you retell what you had read. Of course, we did have some other activities, like if it's physics, we did problems and problem solving, and then we had sometimes lab experiments, maybe sometimes, very rarely, but we did. In geography classes we did this map coloring things, tables, all other things, but retelling what you had read before in the book was the part of activities, always of it. Alright, and what is nowadays? As I see it, I don't know, in the Russian system it's still the same. Students do not have Chromebooks, because who will buy them, right? In the American system I can see a lot of things. The students only respond to their Chromebooks. Even the same thing, they question answer, they just copy paste their answers from maybe ChatGPT, maybe even without reading it at all. So the teacher does ask the same thing, so giving them the text to read and then respond, but they just copy paste. They just copy paste these questions, put them to ChatGPT, and then they give the answer. Or maybe most probably even just click answers without looking at them, without reading through, without any understanding sometimes. I don't see the smartest auditory. I work with ESL students, so those students who are not exactly motivated. But I understand that it's the same thing with all other. I mean, not all other, but most part of population. Maybe not most, but something statistically. And that's kind of sad. But at the same time, we do realize that not everybody is going to be an academic in their future life. Somebody must do this work in Walmart, stuff, shelves, and yeah, whatever. So not everybody is going to be smart in the future. That's our future. Do I think that testing is an absolute evil? No, it's still good. I mean, it provides pupils, student opportunities, like equal opportunities for everybody. Because even if you live far away in the mountains, I don't know, somewhere where education is not exactly accessible, but you can be sure that if you do this test and if you pass the test successfully with a good result, you can be sure that you get the same amount of education that somewhere students in other schools are getting. So that's standardized, and then you have a chance to go to college, university, so you basically are prepared for this. Yes, so that's equity. And sometimes it can be like personal problems when they are like a biased opinion of a teacher, maybe, and with testing, students can be protected from it. For example, for example, like my son used to have. How did he study at school in Russia? A little bit of grading system. They don't have ABC, they don't have this percentage system. They use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grades. 5 is the best, it's excellent. 4 is okay, it's like 75% and higher. And 3 is okay, you kind of did something that's not good, but you tried. 2 is when it's bad. 1 is actually never used, it's just only used by a teacher when they are totally distressed, when they are already desperate, exhausted emotionally and in other ways, and that's already like a call for help from a teacher. Not exactly the grade. Really rarely used, only some exceptional situations. So basically they do have 4 grade system. My son used to have normally in annual reports it would be like 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 grades, excellent. Most of them were 4. In annual reports he didn't have 3, but in between some parts of the year he would have had like 2, 3 3s. 3 grades, which is like okay, but he used to say that it's personal. Like there was a teacher who never graded anybody with 5 excellent, because she considered that it's, I don't know the subject to get the 5, so you cannot get a 5. I understand that it could be true, because in my childhood there used to be teachers like that too. So so common testing can help students to avoid this biased situation with a unfair grading maybe from a teacher. So that's the only plus I see in the testing system. But do they need to stay? Yes, they need to stay, but they need to be modified. I don't know how, but there must be more of these personalized answers, more of these speaking abilities, because students nowadays do not speak. Because I teach them to speak English, but at the same time I see students who are smart, intelligent, but they have no ability to express their thoughts. Even in public, even in a small group settings, that's really stressful for them, really hard to use their speaking abilities. And that's sad, because what generation we are growing. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, maybe you were asking the question, why am I by this walking around the spring? Because that's exactly the time of the year where people all over the pond, on the other side of the pond, they go to swim. They break ice on the top of the water because they believe it's something related to baptism ceremonies, when they believe that there is like last night, the previous night, the night before, there was something, and the water now has changed its qualities, and if you swim in it now, you're gonna be healthy, good and sound for the whole year ahead. I've never done that. I'm not going to. I was just curious if there is any ice in my spring near, because it's below 0 temperature, and it's interesting to see. But it's too active, too vivid, too warm yet. The water is still warm. All right, that was good to see you. I hope you have your own opinion on standardized testing, and see you back there, down there in the comment section. Have a good day. Bye bye. До свидания. There will be more Russian lessons later. Study Russian with Oleg. Welcome to the channel. So see you later. Bye bye.